Welcome to Film Fu, where the cuts are as clear as the kicks. I'm Shifu Pain, and today we're looking at Opium and the Kung Fu Master, a 1984 film starring Tai Lung,
finally,
and directed by Tang Chia. We are knee-deep in post-Bruce Lee here, folks. A Hong Kong production straight from the golden age of Hong Kong cinema.
This was around the same time as when Jackie Chan was making his rounds, and the first half of this film does have that sort of blending of action and comedy. There is a fight scene early in the film, in fact, which mixes action and comedy, creating high-end slapstick on par with a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
The slapstick and comedic portion ends by about the halfway mark in this film, and that's for good reason, because this film is one about addiction and the heavy price that it can have on yourself and your loved ones.
Let's take a look at the plot. A group of businessmen looking to open an opium house arrive at a village and conscript a couple of local businessmen into becoming partners. One of these people is a highly respected kung fu master by the name of Tai, played by Tai Lung.
our battle will be legendary!
Who does also take opium, but insists that it's not an addiction, and just recreational. When the workers of a local rice factory become addicted, one of Tai's students, named Kwazu, attempts to destroy the opium house, but is killed in the conflict, eventually Tai to the realization that the opium has destroyed his resolve, and with the help of his own master, kicks the addiction and rids the village of the opium dealers.
By that synopsis, you can kind of tell that this is a very paint-by-numbers addiction story. But what is more important are the people behind this story.
To track the history of opium in China, we need to go back to the 19th century, when British colonists traded in opium to countries including China and India, which led to a large amount of the population being addicted to the opioid. And when the Chinese government sought to cut off their trade of opium, the British government said, "Are you kidding? You're our most loyal customers. Why would we throw away our golden goose?" Which led to the Opium Wars. China, or rather the Qing dynasty, lost the Opium Wars to the English-French alliance and had to legalize the trading of opium. The Chinese Communist government was finally able to get rid of the trading of opium in 1949, but the perception of the West was tainted in the eyes of China due to their underhanded methods and attempts to make China the evil in the story. So it's understandable why the Chinese people weren't happy. But more on this later.
For now, let's take a look at what we're dealing with and get to the action.
Today's fight scene is at the midpoint of the film, so just after Kwazu was trying to burn down the opium den. Kwazu had successfully burned down the opium house, and the main antagonist had him in his grasp until Tai, who had been taking opium only moments before, steps in.
Finally, a worthy opponent.
No! Stop it! No! At first, Tai is unarmed while the antagonist carries two short spears. The stance Tai goes into is sitting cat stance. We talked about sitting cat stance in the Matrix video, but the difference here is the lack of security. Tai is overconfident and in denial about his opium addiction, so he thinks he's more capable than he actually is, hence going into a stance that's more taxing to hold, rather than a sturdier stance such as horse stance. The fight starts proper with the antagonist striking while Tai parries the blows, narrowly missing the spear teeth each time they're jabbed at him, still highlighting his senses being duller and slower, a subject which both Kwazu and his old master have commented on previously, only to be brushed off. You'd think people would have more respect for the blind.
The stars sure are beautiful tonight. Too bad you can't see them, Toph.
Here's a good time to talk about the blows of the fight, which function in a rhythm, almost like a dance, with the rhythm being easy to follow and helping to make the action flow more for the audience. This rhythm is a staple of Hong Kong films, and especially Jackie Chan's work, but it also highlights a middle ground between the acrobatic, dance-like action of Chinese opera mingled with the faster and more dynamic action of Bruce Lee. That dial is turned up to 11 when we get to Jackie, but for now I'll conclude this with... The fight continues when the antagonist quickly notices that Tai's footwork is off and begins to take advantage. The lack of proper footwork I think illustrates how Tai is losing his foundation. While addicted to the opioid and in denial about it, affecting things which are second nature to him, such as adequate footing. Here is also another sign of Tai's hampering due to his addiction, as his face is caked in sweat, while the antagonist is dry as a desert. The degradation continues for Tai as the fight goes on, moving to heavy breathing, gasping for air, and the eventual nail in the coffin, that is a shaking hand. The fight's major negative turn is when Tai needs to reach for a sword, something that signifies how out of his depth he is compared to the opening fight, where his disposal of two thieves was effortless. Going back to Tai's hands shaking, this is the final indication for Tai that he has a problem, that his addiction is affecting him and will destroy him, reinforced by the injury he sustains when the antagonist eventually lands a blow. He becomes so paralyzed by this that he cannot continue the fight, resulting in Kwazu dying in an attempt to stop the man that was about to end his life. An important point to stress requires us going back to why Kwazu tried to burn down the opium house. Why Kwazu did this is due to one of his employees who was addicted to opium, refusing to work and using up his family's savings for his addiction, causing his wife and children to commit suicide out of shame. The employee therefore kills himself as atonement. That plotline is the perfect summation of this film's message. This was a person, a father and husband who worked hard and had his life taken by something forced on him, a substance and industry that took all he had without care. This is not framed as some form of justice or an addict getting his due. This man is a victim of a system taking advantage of him for its own gain. This man is a symbol of China itself and the people that were affected by the opioid that was traded to them by the West, with Kwazu serving as the government, the system of authority trying to end this catastrophe before it goes too far, but to no avail. This evil takes more people throughout the film. It takes the sister of one of the businessmen, it takes Kwazu, and it takes an innocent family. This 1899 propaganda piece called The Yellow Peril is a good example of the message the West was seeking to send about the Chinese during the Opium Wars. First of all, the name points out a primary difference: skin color. It's classic fear-mongering.
They're not like you and me, which means they must be evil.
They're different from us, which means they can't be trusted.
The woman lying underneath the man is representing the West, and the innocents being threatened by the Chinese, while the man looks crazed and is surrounded by the fumes of presumably opium, with an opium pipe in one hand and a gun in the other. The Chinese are a drug-addled, violent breed that will destroy the innocents of the West and all you hold dear, until you remember that the West and the British sold them the opium for profit, refused to let the Chinese go when they tried to cut off the trade for it being too damaging, and then went to war for their profit, not considering how it affects the innocent people that became addicted, and the income and money and power.
So what did the opium dealers represent? The West? The British? No. That's too easy.
It's the ideology, the belief that money and power are all that matters, that the bodies trampled on the way to that power are simply collateral, and all that matters is influence, money, power, industry. Fortunately for this film, Tay is able to eventually kick his habit and force the dealers out of town, using the memories of his fallen friends and loved ones by literally using their memorial packs to win the fight. But unfortunately, many more cannot curb their addiction quite so easily. At least, not without help.
I'll put a link in the description to a helpline if you or anyone you know is currently suffering from a substance abuse or from a form of addiction.
In summation, what can we learn from this film? Physically, it's important to stress the importance of secure footing, not dissimilar to the roots of a tree. The mightiest of bodies can be felled by the foundation they stand on. This leads into the more important lesson, however, that even the mightiest of oaks can still fall with the strongest of roots. There's a tendency when we reach a certain level of competency in something, or given a title that says such, we think that we have learned all that there is to know about that subject, or ourselves, and that we have reached the height of ability. But doing this only puts a cap or ceiling on our own abilities, and when we hit that ceiling, there's nowhere to go but down. It's only by continually learning and stressing that we've not reached the end of our journey in whatever path we take that we can prevent the limiting of ourselves. Take, for example, people who hold on to outdated social conventions, or worse, that have changed in meaning over time. I'm not saying that these people are bad people, at least not all of them, but it wouldn't hurt to
educate yourself.
Thank you all for watching this week's video, everyone. Honestly, this film has quickly become one of my favourite martial arts films, and I was so glad to talk about it here. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell, everyone, so you never miss a new video. And until next time, everyone, peace be with you.